portrait of a man working at what he does better than anyone else in the world. What he did a half-century ago made him immortal, a giant of music. But he is not only a figure of the past. At 83, he is an active composer, a man of the 1960s.
The interest of my life, my intellectual life, and my everyday life is to make. I am a maker.
Today, wherever he goes, Igor Stravinsky is the honored guest. And in the spring of 1965, CBS News followed Stravinsky and his wife halfway around the world, from his home in Hollywood to Warsaw, a city of his youth. Along the way, he exchanged views with students of the University of Texas. In New York, with the help of Benny Goodman, he recorded a jazz work. And in Chicago, he presented the world with a brand new symphonic work. In Paris, he saw a fellow artist, sculptor Alberto Giacometti, and he revisited the scene of his most controversial work, The Rite of Spring. Pope Paul honored him in Rome, and at Journey's End, the Warsaw Opera Ballet danced his Rite of Spring, and he himself conducted his most popular piece, this piece, the one that brought him fame more than 55 years ago, the Firebird Suite. This 10-year-old, on an outing with his parents in 1892, like any other Russian boy, thinks of school, of holidays, and of outings like this one, but he doesn't think of music. This young man, with his brothers and their friends, studies music, but his father insists he concentrate on law. He has already picked out the girl he's going to marry. This girl, his first cousin, the one his brother Yuri has his arm around. This man loves music, and he hates law. He's a composition student of the great Rimsky-Korsakov, and he shows some promise of being a composer himself one day. This picture was taken in 1905 in St. Petersburg. He is 23. Stravinsky at 28, 5 years later in Paris. This is a picture of a famous man, acclaimed for his Firebird and Petrushka ballets. The man with him is the great dancer Nijinsky in his Petrushka costume. And this is a picture of Stravinsky 1 year later in 1911. He is writing a revolutionary new piece of music that will, at its first performance, start a literal riot, a riot that was to become the most famous scandal in music history. This is Lake Geneva in Switzerland, seen from Stravinsky's hotel. Not far from here is the village of Clairon, where in 1911 he composed The Rite of Spring, in a room hardly large enough to hold Stravinsky and a muted upright piano. Stravinsky hasn't seen that room in over 50 years.
Now, that's what I don't recognize. Here was my hotel. I don't recognize. It was here. And here was the hotel of Ravel.
Stravinsky tries to find his old house with the help of his son Theodore, a painter. Half a century gone by blurs the way, but he is determined to refresh the memory of the place and of the people connected with it. People like Serge Diaghilev, the impresario of the Ballet Russe, who presented the first Rite of Spring.
To go to the third floor. I don't remember. It's here. There's the room where I composed the Sacre du Printemps.
Oui.
And there's the closet where I have my books and so on, you know, and I put on the door. It is here in French. It is here that I am composing the Sacre du Printemps, and I cite Igor Stravinsky. When I finished composing the Rite of Spring, I played it for Diaghilev. He listened a little while, and then he says, "Will it last a very long time this way?" And I said, "To the end, my dear."
Stravinsky's tiny room in Switzerland near Lake Geneva has now become all the concert halls of the world. The Rite of Spring is a classic and is performed as a concert piece dozens of times each year. Still, performances of the work in its original form as a ballet are a great rarity, not seen in the United States since 1930. This year, in honor of Stravinsky's visit, the Warsaw Opera Ballet restaged their version. In the Rite of Spring, a young virgin is chosen by her pagan Russian tribe for sacrifice to the gods of fertility. Her dance to the death is the high point of the ballet and its finale. We see it performed in Warsaw by prima ballerina Elizabeth Jaron. And if today this ballet still shocks you, imagine the impact in the gentle pre-war world of 1913 on an audience which was expecting the usual perfume and grace of the period, and which instead was struck full force by the power of Stravinsky's raging rite. Today, the measure of Stravinsky's integrity as an artist is contained in this extraordinary statement about the rite of spring.
There are pages of the Sacre which I like.
Yes.
And I find them interesting today.
Yes.
And there are tens of pages which I am absolutely indifferent today. I was not indifferent composing it.
Yes.
It means that I changed.
It is a rare man who is courageous enough to change when he is successful. And it is a strong man who can revolt against his own victorious revolution. This composer Stravinsky has done many times. He is doing it still. In fact, his recent work is thornier and more difficult for today's audience than The Rite of Spring was in 1913. Now, Stravinsky travels to Chicago, where he will supervise the world premiere of his latest piece. With him, as always, are the two people who know him best, his wife, Vera, and the living authority on Stravinsky, writer-conductor Robert Kraft.
Vera and Igor Stravinsky complement each other in a variety of ways. Physically, a tiny, bony, fleshless man, a large pneumatic woman. Temperamentally, a hyper-intense, finicky man, and a large, calm woman, who tends to regard her husband's nervous panics with lofty patience. Miraculously, the characteristics of each never seem to irritate the other. Rather, they are coordinates. The good Lord, I am sure, chose them as a team.
In an expansive mood, Stravinsky talks about many things, such as religious belief.
I believe, and I always quote St. Paul, who said, I will quote it, his phrase in Latin, credo quod absurdum. I believe because it's absurd.
Newspapers.
The newspapers are as incompetent in music as in politics.
What music expresses.
Can express nothing. That's my conviction. It can express itself only. The music expresses itself, and very eloquently. Expressing itself, it creates forms.
What mood is for in music.
The mood is for girls.
Mozart.
I like Mozart very much. So much that I steal the music of Mozart. And I feel that I have the right to steal because I love it.
A self-description.
Like somebody who never is satisfied. Never.
Stravinsky's stature today does not depend on the rite of spring or on any one composition, but rather on the whole body of work he has produced over the past half-century, and is producing still. Because at 83, Stravinsky is composing as actively as ever. But today, his music is unlike any he has composed before. It is based not on tonality, the system that underlies all familiar music, both popular and classical, and the system that Stravinsky himself used until a few years ago, but on a newer principle invented in the 20th century by Arnold Schoenberg, called seriality.
Say, some 50 years before Bach, the principle of tonality was as new as the principle of seriality today.
Seriality. You have to tell me what that means.
What that means, that means the use of series.
A series is the melody used to construct a serial piece, but it is not an ordinary melody. Ordinary melodies can have any number of notes. A series has only 12. Ordinary melodies repeat notes at will. In a series, none may be repeated. The effect of these rules, and others like them, is to eliminate tonality. That is, to eliminate keys like C major or G major or D minor. And today, many composers are anxious to keep tonality out of their music, much as many painters are interested in keeping images out of their painting. Art in the 20th century tends to be abstract. Seriality has produced music of cogency and beauty in works by many composers, from Schoenberg to the present. But since our lifelong musical habit is tonality, most of us react to seriality at first as we might experience weightlessness in space. It doesn't feel natural. Until we get used to it, it is not natural. And getting used to it takes time. Stravinsky's latest serial work is called Variations. We see Stravinsky at the world premiere as he listens to Variations for the first time, alone, backstage. This is what a serial work sounds like.
What was your impression of the new Stravinsky piece?
Oh, I think it was fantastic.
The most advanced music, or the greatest joke ever presented to us. Thank you.
The first one was all right. I think it needs more body, it needs more workout. But
You read the reviews?
No.
Of the critics? No? They were very good. That must make you very happy.
I am not happy. Very good critics.
And bad critics?
Just not very unhappy, very bad critics. That the good, that the bad cannot understand such a music. Myself, I am in difficulty very often, you know, when I hear my new music, to pronounce myself about it, you know, and to say my opinion. What is my opinion about the variations? I must say that I am very interested, very interested. The critics cannot judge me because not only I am more important in music, but I know better.
Regardless of Stravinsky's interest or anyone's opinion, the plain fact is that in over 40 years, not one serial piece has ever become popular. But public opinion has never moved Stravinsky. And when someone recently offered him thousands of dollars to compose another Firebird, he replied characteristically, no, because it would cost me more.
The Texas Cowboys. Wonderful. On behalf of the Texas Cowboys and the University of Texas, I'd like to present you with the Texas Cowboy hat and welcome you to Austin.
Nothing could be better than to have a cowboy head.
Igor Stravinsky, born in 1882 in Imperial Russia, travels 1,000 miles from his home in Hollywood to Austin to establish contact with the young men and women of the University of Texas. They know that they are sitting down to a talk with history itself.
I love to compose the music, which I did already more than 70 years. And, you know, I always like to compose music more than the music itself. That's very important. That's my feeling, which I tell you, and I don't make a secret of it. What the people think about music emotionally, that's quite different. They're quite different, but musically speaking, purely musically speaking, there are rules.
like rules in any game. Each game must have its rules, otherwise it is an anarchy, which means nothing. I can be what you want. I can be the worst of communists in the world, you know, but not an anarchist, even the nicest anarchist. Because then I am lost. Then I don't know where I am and what my neighbors are, and everything is permitted, nothing is permitted. You are in the absolute void. And here we have rules. Bad or good rules, but we have rules. Now ask me what you want.
I would like to ask what you particularly reject in the operatic music of Strauss.
Richard Strauss?
Yes.
You know, that was a very big musician. And I think that nobody will deny it. But I don't like the music of Richard Strauss. I don't like his famous works. I don't like his minor works. I assure you, so many thousands, 10,000, 100,000 people go every year to hear Rosenkavalier. That's the most boring thing for me. That's very strange. And I have a big respect for his musicality. He was a wonderful conductor. He was a wonderful try to translate from the Russian. Maybe somebody speaks Russian here. Vera? How is Znatok? Huh? Connoisseur. In French. Still not in English. Still not in English. That's what I can say of Strauss. And now I must tell you that I have to go home and to greet you and to thank you for coming and the interest you have surely for my music. And please don't abandon this interest.
On the eve of the long journey to Warsaw by way of Paris and Rome, Stravinsky pauses in New York to enjoy the city and to see friends. To Stravinsky, friends can mean anyone in the world, from all the great minds and talents of our time to the children of the St. Thomas Boys Choir, assembled to greet him in the Guggenheim Museum.
Don't look, I will cry. Why? Because we are leaving New York tomorrow.
He visits George Balanchine, eminent choreographer of his ballet since 1925, who plans to stage Variations. They meet on the stage of the New York State Theater at Lincoln Center, so that Balanchine can show Stravinsky young Suzanne Farrell, who may dance the work.
Да. Замечательно.
Stravinsky is one of the most versatile composers who ever lived. In fact, he has written in so many styles that young composers, happy to fall under his influence, have had a hard time deciding which Stravinsky to emulate. He has even written jazz. And in 1945, Woody Herman commissioned a piece for himself and his band. Stravinsky called it Ebony Concerto, and now he records it in a 30th Street studio. This time, the clarinetist is an old musical friend, Benny Goodman. Ebony Concerto definitively recorded by conductor Stravinsky to the complete satisfaction of composer Stravinsky, traveler Stravinsky set sail for Europe and ultimately Warsaw. All in all, Stravinsky is not a simple man. Musically, he is a saint, but his appetite for food and drink is worldly indeed. And these earthy facts are replied to in turn by a deeply religious nature. The great composer, Debussy, was describing this many-sidedness at first hand when he said, Stravinsky is an amiable man, he kisses the hands of the ladies, and he steps on their feet. Stravinsky is a man full of contrasts, and it is his talent to unite the diverse aspects of his rich personality and to order them into art. On his way to Warsaw, a city he has not seen since 1923, Igor Stravinsky of the Russian Orthodox faith stops in Rome to hear a performance of his own symphony of songs at the special invitation of a very special man. In Paris, Stravinsky visits a friend, one of the world's famous artists, Alberto Giacometti, who died shortly after these pictures were taken. They meet at Giacometti's studio in a working-class neighborhood.
Giacometti is one of the best sculptors in the world. I have a very friendly feeling for him. I know him well.
Ça, c'est les moulins sacrés. Ça aussi, oui.
Ah, pour rire, c'est très intéressant.
Comment?
Très intéressant.
Mais c'est commencé. Hein.
Très intéressant. Très intéressant. Les esquisses, vous le faites directement sur la toile.
Comment?
Vous n'avez pas d'esquisse.
Non, non, non.
Sur la toile.
C'est d'après nature.
Il y a une exposition.
D'après nature,
n'est-ce pas?
Ah oui.
Ah oui, oui. Asseyez-vous. Ou très cher, ou...
Ou très cher.
Over the years, Giacometti has made a series of pencil sketches of Stravinsky, and he's anxious to try another. At Stravinsky's hotel, an unusual sight, Giacometti draws Stravinsky. Stravinsky draws Giacometti.
C'est mon cerveau qui va pas.
Le cerveau. Mais écoutez, quel cerveau va?
Ah là là. Absolument pas.
Non.
Pas question. Non, non.
Qu'est-ce que vous n'aimez pas?
Dans ce que je fais, je n'arrive pas.
Oh,
Il n'y a rien à faire.
c'est très beau.
Non, j'arrive pas. C'est abominable. Hein. Ah là là. Mais non, c'est rien. Et je sais plus. Merde.
Bonjour à la Pologne, que j'aime beaucoup. Voilà, bonjour.
Stravinsky reaches Warsaw and the climax of the long journey. After an absence of 42 years, he has come back to make a new contact with the city and its musical life. And he is saddened by the scars of war and by the monument which stands where the ghetto once was, mute symbol of heroism and tragedy. Composer joins the Warsaw Philharmonic in a performance of his own Firebird Suite, the piece that first brought him fame in 1910 in the big world outside St. Petersburg. the miracle of Stravinsky is this. Born in feudal Russia in the 19th century and a revolutionary force in the 20th, he is still exploring new pathways in music. In the midst of the space age, at 83, Igor Stravinsky is aimed straight into the future.
Stravinsky was filmed and edited under the supervision and control of CBS News.